Welcome to the TicTacToe Innovation podcast, a space where we will be interviewing some of the best minds in the innovation field so we can all learn together some of the behaviors and tactics that create the most innovative cultures and creates transformational innovation.
So we're here very happy to be doing our third podcast of TicTacToe Innovation. And this time we have the privilege to be interviewing our dear friend, Lorna Nichols from Reckitt. We've been working with Lorna for about a year, and she will be sharing with us her learnings in innovation and in particularly also with working with us, takeaways that she may have from the time with us and her team. So thank you, Lorna, for being here with us and giving us your time.
It's a privilege to be here today and to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is innovation. So thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. So we'll kick it up with saying that this is a very informal conversation. We just want to learn from the people behind the innovation, and you're certainly a key player in the world of corporate America. And our first question is all about, we know that innovation is about rewiring the brain and helping people discover behaviors that help them to be more curious and to dig those human truths and understand how to solve problems. What have you learned in this journey about helping teams discover those new behaviors and rewiring their brains?
So I think the important thing for me is around the benefit of thinking of innovation as a mindset as well as the discipline, because I think sometimes we focus on the nuts and bolts and the things that we can easily measure, and we're, you know, if we can measure it, we're quite good at focusing on it. I think things like the mindset aspect are a little bit more intangible at times, a little bit harder to sometimes put a value behind. But the principle behind it of really thinking through mindset and the ways that can bring in the innovation process and focusing on it as a muscle, in effect, that you need to build, I think is really, really critical. So that was one of the things for me about working through this process. And I think a lot of us who work in the innovation space, we're aware of these things, but maybe haven't thought about it in that sense before, or thought about it in that way of really the value behind it and how you can tangibly show that as well. So I think for me, that was one of the critical things about going through the process of really how to focus on the mindset aspect and really elevate that within the overall innovation process.
And we're delighted to hear that, because that's what we try to do between Diana, Simon, and I, making the very complex, making it simple, putting some framework behind it that we could help organizations behind, the years of our own experience. And to hear you saying that it has worked for you, it's really music to our ears. So thank you for that. Now, regarding that, we see that for teams to really deliver on coming up with ideas and coming up with things that are different and breakthrough for their companies, there needs to be psychological safety and trust. And particularly now, when corporations are so tight into delivering profitability, trust becomes an element, and psychological safety that might hinder innovation. What are your learnings in terms of what can leaders do in order to promote psychological safety and trust in the teams?
Well, I think I think to your point that psychological safety is absolutely critical for building innovation, because we really do need that diversity of thinking and diversity of approach, and you don't know who has the different elements that by putting that together could be the spark that creates the next innovation. And sometimes innovation isn't about a spark either. It's about bringing things together from different areas and it all coming together in a way that actually does deliver that breakthrough innovation. I think in order to be able to really look at psychological safety, there are probably three things that it's critical to focus on. So for me, I think as a leader, you need to role model the behaviors that you want to see and really demonstrate them. So if obviously active listening and things like that is a critical part of that, if your team do not see you doing that, then they are not going to feel that, and also they're not going to then follow that through, or maybe know how to follow that through. So I think role modeling is critical. I think as well, enabling time and space for people to come together is also really important, and to share those ideas. I think sometimes things, it's a high pressure environment, sometimes innovation, and you've got timelines to meet and deadlines, but carving out that space, whether or not it's through project meetings, or whether or not it's in other ways, that people can really take stock and reflect and enable other voices to be heard, is really, really important. And also, I think this other space is as a leader, what you need to do is you need to look at maybe whose voice is not being heard as part of that process as well, finding out why that is, and being able to encourage or provide an environment where that voice can then be heard in a way that is comfortable for them. So I think, those are three key things that are potentially small things that you can do, that can start to shift that needle around psychological safety as well.
Yeah. Hey, on those things you talk about, make sure they have the input from other people, that they come and they can bring their themselves, that they have the trust to say what they're thinking. How do you balance between make sure that you are not all the time on the divergent mode with the rigor that you need to deliver innovation on time, because we are now always against time. So how do you balance that rigor?
And I think that's exactly the point. I mean, I think you need to have clearly defined time for divergent and then convergent aspects of things, and really clear, building the timelines for that, and making sure that you are building in the timeline for the divergent thinking as well into that process wherever possible, and clearly defining what that problem is as well. I think there needs to be divergent thinking around what is the problem in the first place, and then convergent thinking of, well, what is that problem for us? I mean, there might be lots of problems, but what is the one that really we have the right to solve and what we need to solve? And then the same with ideas as well, divergent thinking around what are the potential solutions there, and then really converge on, well, what's the right one that we're going to go after? I mean, but at the same time, we do have to be a little bit adaptable with that. New information comes in. Some of the innovations that we work on have quite long time frames behind them, and the world changes within that. So we do have to be a little bit adaptable and flexible to say, well, this is now the new reality, or this is what we think the new reality is going to be. So what does this mean for us, to make sure we are keeping relevant to it, and that what we are bringing to market and the innovations we are bringing to market are going to deliver on what our overall objective is. If we just stuck maybe to the original plan, we may exactly do what we said we were going to do, but it may no longer meet the requirements because the world has moved on in that time.
We like to think on questions. What are the questions that must be answered before a product is developed and launched into the market? Sometimes there are typical questions that we never answer, and they're very important. Do you have any preferred questions just in the, hey, we need to pay attention on this one, which is very important and we tend to forget, or just it is very important and we always need to pay attention to that one?
I think there's lots of questions, and maybe as a scientist, questions and questioning is my background. But I think in order to try and keep it simple, I think there's kind of like two approaches that I take with this. So the first one is almost like a can we, should we. So first of all, you start off thinking, can we do it? This is the problem that we're trying to solve. Can we do it? what is that kind of like technical route, and it's almost like what's the effort that would take in order to
Mm.
be able to solve that problem. And then the counter side of that is maybe we think we can do it, but then should we, you know, should we actually do it? What is the impact that that is going to have, both from a business point of view? So is it right for the business, but also really importantly from that consumer point of view? So should we do it? Is there really going to be a benefit for them? And I know you talk about in the work that we've done together, that almost like that hiring firing model. If you're going to hire a new product, what is it that you're going to fire? And actually you know, because even if consumers don't have an answer to what they're doing today, a perfect answer, they will be doing something. You know, if they've got a need, there's usually something that they're doing, if it even if it's not perfect, that they're delivering. So I think critically at the base level, that's those are two really important questions that we should keep asking ourselves as we go through, and keep checking in on, you know, the can we do it, you know, actually,
And should we do
as
it?
we get more information, is that still the case, and importantly, should we be doing it? I think as we go through that process as well, a key thing to continue to ask ourselves is what if we did this? So that
Mhm.
kind of aspect of, you know, how could we improve this further? How could we maybe bring in different perspectives or different approaches to this, that might actually make this even better? So, you know, we start with our initial view of what that could be, but what if we did this or that or the other to it, to then, to your point, Deanna, to make it bigger and better, and you know, and take it beyond where we originally thought, whilst, you know, balancing that convergent versus the divergent as well. Because what we don't want to do is keep asking what if we, but that's taking us out and out and out and out, when actually what we need to be doing is really focusing on delivering what it is that we say we're
Yeah,
going to
it's
do.
a
But
it's interesting that you know, when we sometimes we have workshops where we help people just to ask questions, you know, the importance of questions as part of curiosity. And one of the ways to make sure that people is asking questions is to make questions, what if this, what if that, and having that muscle developed is very important. You know, at the beginning you don't even think on what are the what if questions that may have, but the more you do it, the more you develop that, you train that muscle. So that's super important. You know, I love that you have these three questions, you know, the what if, can we do it, and should we do it? How do you answer those questions? So what kind of things, when you are thinking, should we do it? What kind of things do you ask? Do you consider the brand? Do you consider, should we do it? Maybe it's gonna take too much time. What are kind of answers that you are looking with the should we do it?
so I think those things do come into it to some extent. So I think, you know, for me it's very much about the consumer proposition,
Mhm.
of the should we do it, but absolutely it needs to fit with the brand, and needs to fit with the brand strategy as well. And that strategy might also be kind of like a time bound aspect as well
Mhm.
to it. So, and I think, you know, there are things that we can work on that are further out, but we need to have really, really clear rationale for why we're doing that, and really ensuring that it is going to deliver that superiority and that differentiation, on the
Mhm.
key areas that we are focused on as a brand.
Can you share how you get that? Like typically you have to learn about the human behind the consumer to uncover those real insights. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I mean, absolutely. I think, you know, a lot of big brands and big players, and ourselves included, spend a lot of time and effort in trying to understand our consumers. And I do think that, you know, especially with new technologies and things like that, this is, and more information available, that we can understand more about our consumers now than probably ever before. But I think sometimes that there is almost like too much information, or so it's not just about the information itself, but then it's about how do we really bring it to life for our teams and our brands to really get under the skin of it, especially if you've got like large data sets or things like that as well. I think it's really, really important that we bring that information to life so that the teams really, really understand how to use that. And from the individual's perspective as well. So this is where I love things like where you can do like video ethnography or something like that, where you've got videos that can show it from that person's perspective, or just show what they're doing on a day-to-day basis that can really bring it to life. I know people use verbatims and personas quite a lot, but I think, you know, any way we can do it to really bring those insights to life for our teams is as critical as getting the information in the first place as well. So for me, that's really, really super important. And then the other thing I think as well is about, it's trying to understand the person as a whole a little bit, and really thinking through, well, what are the habits and the routines and aspects that also then influence how they use the products, or how they interact in different ways, or what would influence their decision making as part of it. So I think, you know, one of the things that we were in China last year talking about Veet, and one of the insights that we got from a habit point of view is that actually in China people tend to like have their main wash of the day or main cleansing routine at the end of the day before going to bed, whereas in the Western world it tends to be more in the morning. So actually that has an impact on, you know, the time that you've got, or maybe the mindset you're in, or a number of different factors which actually you can then build into the product experience, and actually then allows you to think through, well, actually, how's this product going to be used and what is going to be most important to people. Just something as simple as the time of day that somebody might have a shower can actually then influence quite a lot about how you might see that. So I think things like that are really, really critically important too.
For products to do better, that's where that observation is, where you can see it with the different eyes, can the big ideas can come through.
Yeah, and I know, you know, for large organizations, we can't necessarily always, all of us, be observing all the time as much as we would love to be. So it's how can we bring those insights in and really, really bring them to life. That humanization of it, and that really getting into the detail of different aspects is really important. And I think within that as well, we also need to think about who do we talk to uncover new insights, because sometimes we keep talking to the same people all the time. We keep talking to our almost like our broad target, or our you know, our, because we're brands that we look at mass consumers, but actually if we talk to maybe some of the niche people on the fringes, people with different needs, we might be able to uncover some insights that actually, by understanding that, would have a value that would be applicable across more people as well. But it's just articulated in a different way to allow us to understand that and really uncover that. So I'm you know, wherever possible, and I know, you know, it is about budgets and things like that, but if we can start thinking through maybe people who might have slightly different challenges which could be relevant for wider groups of people, you know, that could be to do with accessibility, or I mean, it could be in any number of different areas. But by really understanding that at a granular level, and then looking at, well, how could we extrapolate that out to actually make a product that's going to raise our game in an area that maybe we weren't even thinking about.
Let me just add something, Lorna, because I think what you're saying is so critical, and I love your example of China. I mean, that is so critical. I mean, you could have a survey, and we all think that everybody's doing it like we do it, right? So it's observation and really getting into the consumer. And going back to observation, we have seen over and over again that you may send a bunch of people out to observe the consumer, and they all may come back with different things, because we also need to be trained, and Simone is an expert on this, on observation. I mean, that empathy to, because you might find an insight from another category of, like you said, from a niche consumer, somebody that's doing something different. But we need to be there, be present, and really take the time to empathize with that consumer. So you learn, okay, how can, like you said, how can I make the showering experience at night? And it may not just be beat, it might be something else, right? It might be something that helps that experience to be better. And therefore, so I love what you're saying. And I think adding that learning to observe is something that
on that same example, I also love it. And I lived in China 6 years, but I have never thought on that learning. I think it's as interesting to understand the consequences of the fact that they take a shower in the evening versus in Western world where most of the people take it in the morning. Obviously, there are obvious consequences, how you feel and the things you do, but also the rationale of why. And I don't know, but I assume that in the Western world we take a shower in the morning because we want to look ourselves the best when we go to work and we want to energize. And maybe in Asia they take the bath in the evening because they want to relax and have a very nice sleep. So I think it's very interesting to understand, how the different cultures weight the different benefits differently. I think that's a very interesting insight, and I think that you probably have some opportunities in other categories to use that insight, Lorna. I think that's a very nice one. You were talking about make sure that you go to different consumers. We usually talk about that, and also how to go also to different categories. We always said, if you are developing a category, your product that delivers, I don't know, I'm going to say, for example, happiness. So you not only go to that particular product, but you go to all the products that consumers experience that deliver happiness, or it's about softness. It's not only about your category that could be shampoos, could be skincare, could be anything, but you also go outside and you go and look what are the standards of excellence of softness. Could be a baby, could be baby care. How do you promote that culture of going outside of the category?
It's really, really important to go outside of your category. I think not from both the point of view of the way consumers might perceive things, and we see as well that there are certain categories where that influence others as well. So trends start in one place and then move through and influence our categories, and then maybe our categories that goes on to influence other ones as well. So I think from that standpoint it's really important, but also from the point of view of the technologies we're looking at as well. I think it's really important because we may think that we've got a problem to solve in our category, but actually there's another industry somewhere that's had the same problem to solve, and they've got a way to look at it. So I think if we can understand what are the problems to solve and who else might have those types of challenges, we can then look at, well, how are they currently solving those problems, and maybe is there something we can learn from that moving forward as well. But yes, I think it is about challenging yourself as well and making time to do that, and the space to do that. And I mean, if you can get we were talking before about that kind of mindset muscle. If you can get the muscles working to do that, and getting the information in from different places, and asking those questions at the right time, I think that is fantastic.
Wonderful. So we started this conversation with you saying that you really enjoyed the innovation mindset and the innovation discipline frameworks and the work that we did together. So going a little deeper into that, can you tell us what were the most important learnings that you and your team took away from those two frameworks?
The tangible tools that that we got, whether or not it was the guiding questions from the point of view of the discipline. And I know there were some in there that that maybe we hadn't thought about in that way before, which were really useful. And then as well, within the sessions themselves, there were some little nuggets as well that when I've been talking to people afterwards, they were like, oh, I really, and different tools resonated with different people as well. But people go, oh, I really like this tool. It's helped me unlock something. So there was a kind of flow tool that you mentioned as part of that aspect, which I know has really resonated with people, and they've started implementing that on a regular basis. There's also the questioning tool as well, when you're using questions more for the person that's being questioned to think about, as opposed to answering those questions. And I think things like that really have stuck with people, and it's given them really easy ways to kind of start thinking differently and start bringing in some of those different aspects. And I think the other thing that was really fantastic about what we did was the fact that we did it as a whole cross-functional team. So it wasn't just the research and development organization, but we had our marketing colleagues, we had our insights colleagues, we had all the different kind of technical functions represented there, medical, regulatory, packaging. So it really was the whole kind of decision-making team that were involved in the process, as well as colleagues from other teams outside the brand as well. And actually we found that was brilliant for bringing in that other perspective, because other people saw things in a completely different way, and suddenly you're like, oh, I've not looked at it from that point of view before. That's a really interesting lens to kind of look at it through. So I think for me it was those things that actually really helped and kind of taken away as things that we want to continue to do in the future as well.
Wonderful. And I loved how unintentionally or intentionally we were able to divide the work in phases, and you had that immersion in China. So it was like before and after, which I also think having the great team that you had also helped that observation and everything else that you're talking about. So thank you
Yeah, and
for
those are wonderful examples, Lorna. And I like the fact that the multifunctional team was there, and it was you said it was not just video. There was someone from Vanish on it, so all of that definitely were made the experience a successful experience. Now, you said something on mindset that I want to dig deeper. I really like how you position it at the beginning when you said like innovation is not just about the nuts and bolts, like the discipline, but there is a mindset that needs to change to really be successful in innovation. So let's unpack that a little bit more for me. So we had different subjects within the mindset program that we think that are important. Out of all of that, which is the one that the team has embraced the most, or which is the one that you think it may make most of the difference?
I think the one that we've really, or the ones that we've really focused on are around the curiosity and the access to the adjacent possible. I think those were the ones where we recognized that actually there was much more that we could do there, and we really wanted to kind of push that forward. So we've now started to implement regular learning sessions, both within the research and development team, but also the wider cross-functional team as well, where different people come in and share something that they've learned, and then that goes goes across the whole team, and that has enabled us to actually spark things that in lots of different areas. So actually last month we had some of our team come and talk about influencers and the role of influencers and how actually influencers work. And the reason they know this is because they are influencers, not to the same level as some of the global superstars, but they were giving us a bit more of an insight into that world and how it works. Now, that would never have happened 6 months ago. We would not have had somebody come along to a work meeting and tell us about their influencing experience, but actually it was really, really relevant because of especially how these things are changing and what impact that could have for our brands in the future. And while, you know, certain markets we are, you know, that is a big focus for a lot of us, and especially myself, who's maybe not grown up embedded in the world of influencers. It was really, really fascinating to hear their inside perspective on it. So yeah, things like that have been really, really amazing for us and the team, and to really dedicate that time to having that opportunity for people to come together and really share these different learnings and experiences has been fantastic.
Wonderful.
And I guess it's a realization for the people, right? You know, to see everything that is happening, and they maybe they were not aware. So
Yes,
they have realized how limited were they before, probably. I mean, I'm exaggerating to make the point, but you know, that the whole world that is outside and so many possibilities, and they have been playing just here. I think that's always a fascinating moment for people.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, I think one of the things that we learned through the process as well is that, you know, we have an awful lot of expertise, and we've got a lot of people in a lot of different places with a lot of different experiences. So you know, that diversity already within the team, how can we draw on that more? And so really maximizing the use of that. And I think the team as a whole within the R&D community, and then also within the wider cross-functional team as well, have really embraced that aspect of ensuring that it's not just individual learning, but then that's shared across, so that other people can you know, put those connections together. And it may not, you know, you might not be able to do anything with it right at that particular moment in time. A month or so, something might happen, and you're like, oh, and it starts to build those connections for you, which is fantastic.
Those are the dots, right? We say innovation is about connecting the dots, but yes, but you need to have the dots. So those are the dots. Mara, you were saying.
We shared with you, Lorna, at some point that we've seen with other people we have worked with that as a result of their work with us, their engagement scores of the team we have worked with have really skyrocketed. And I hear, and that is critical, because we know that engagement, particularly, you know, in the US, but globally, is very low in corporate America, which is very sad, but it's the reality. So when we see that work like this can really spark that, it makes a difference, because once people are engaged, then they deliver results. They go the extra mile. You know, they want to contribute even more. So I hear you, and the word that comes to mind, like a summary of this podcast, is engagement, because you said how the teams are engaged, how other functions are coming, how you're bringing in, you know, between influencers, how you're watching the consumer. So can you summarize it as that, or is there another word?
I mean, I think I don't know if I can sum it up in one word. I'm not. Sometimes summing things up in one word is a lot harder. But I think I mean, engagement is definitely part of it. But I think I think maybe I would go back to mindset. I think there's been a bit of a mindset shift on what innovation is and how it applies to us, if that makes sense. And I think, you know, we were already kind of starting our journey on Path to Superiority when we started talking to you. But I think, you know, some of the tools that you've given us alongside that has really allowed us to question and look at it from a different element, so that we're in we're in a really strong place, and that is allowing both the discipline and the mindset and the whole team to then get behind it, which, to your point, is definitely brings people on the journey and definitely leads to that engagement as well.
Beautiful. Well, we want to thank you for your time and for this wonderful conversation and giving us all your insights. And we're so excited to hear how the team is doing so well, and we can just wait for the new products and the new things that are going to come up from your shop. So we'll keep in touch.
Definitely. Thank you so much.